Have you ever had one of those moments, where you can talk to a friend for hours and you're completely in sync, but then a single text message gets totally misinterpreted and causes a huge fight? It's weird, right? Language is this thing we use constantly, but it's built on this incredible paradox. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack together.
And this quote right here from J.H. Cothry just nails it. It perfectly splits language into its two halves. On one side, you've got the institutionalized form. That's the shared rule book we all kind of agreed on. And on the other hand, you have subjective interpretation. That's how you personally experience those rules. How those two things manage to work together, well, that's the whole secret.
So this is really the big question we're trying to answer. How can language be our greatest tool for connection and, at the same time, the source of so much confusion? It feels like it can't be both, but I promise you, by the end of this, you'll see that this contradiction isn't a flaw in the system, it's the whole point.
Okay, so let's jump into the first piece of this puzzle, the idea of language as a shared rulebook. It's not something we just make up as we go along, it's this massive, pre-existing structure that we're all born into. Think about it like this. Language is basically a social institution, just like money or the legal system. It's a public utility that's been built up over thousands of years, with rules and norms that we all rely on to make society work. And you can see these invisible rules everywhere. We follow grammar, we learn vocabulary, we even get subtly corrected by our parents or teachers when we say something wrong. We're all basically playing a game, and we all know the rules. I mean, here's the simplest proof. I can't just wake up tomorrow and decide the word cat now means airplane and expect the airline to let me board my fluffy pet. It just doesn't work that way. For us to communicate at all, we absolutely need this stable, shared foundation where we all agree that cat wins, well, cat. Okay, but if it's all just one big shared rulebook, then why do we misunderstand each other all the time? Well, this is where we flip the coin and look at how that stable system gets filtered through each of our incredibly unique minds. And here's the twist. The system of words and grammar might be collective, but the moment you actually hear a word, the act of understanding it is 100% personal. Your brain isn't just a computer decoding data, it's actively interpreting everything through your own experiences and biases. Just take a simple word like freedom. For an American libertarian, that word might bring up feelings about individual liberty and keeping the government small. But for a dissident who lived under the Soviet Union, that exact same word means something totally different. It means escape from oppression, from state control. It's the same 6 letters, but they unlock completely different worlds. Now, this doesn't mean our personal interpretations are just random. Not at all. They're heavily, systematically shaped by our culture, by our shared histories, our values, our metaphors. It's why trying to translate a joke from one language to another is so hard. You're not just swapping out words, you're trying to swap out an entire universe of shared cultural understanding. All right, so let's just recap the two opposing forces we're looking at here. On one hand, we have this idea that language is a stable, collective system, a shared public utility. But, on the other hand, we have this undeniable truth that the meaning we actually pull from language is always personal. It's always shifting, and it's deeply, deeply tied to our own life and our own culture. So, what gives? Which one is it? Is language this rigid, fixed structure, or is it a fluid, personal experience? How can it possibly be both of those things at the same time? Well, the answer is probably the most interesting part of all of this. It's not one or the other. It's both. They exist together in what you could call a productive paradox. In fact, it's the constant tension between these two forces that actually makes language work at all. You can really see it clearly here. The institutional side of language gives us stability, predictability, a shared ground to stand on. But it's our personal, subjective interpretation that gives language its nuance, its creativity, its poetry. And yeah, it's also where ambiguity and misunderstanding come from. But you see, you can't have the creativity without also having the potential for confusion. They're two sides of the same coin. And that's the big takeaway. This duality, this paradox, it isn't a bug in the system. It's the system's most important feature. It's what makes language stable enough to build civilizations on, but also flexible and personal enough to write a love poem or share a secret with your best friend. So let's bring this all home. Why does any of this actually matter in our day-to-day lives? Well, once you see this duality, you start to see it everywhere.
Seriously, think about it. This explains why political arguments get so intense. Two people can use the exact same word, like justice, but they're pulling from completely different personal dictionaries. It explains the power of art and poetry, which live in that magical space between a shared word and a private feeling. It even explains the simple joy of an inside joke. That's a tiny little language built on a shared subjectivity that nobody else can access. So the next time you're talking to someone, just think about this for a second. Are you just following the official rules of the game? Or are you using your own personal dictionary to bend those rules, to create something new, and to connect on a much deeper level? It's a constant dance between the two, and you're the one leading the steps.